All right, ladies and gents, welcome to the Stolen African podcast. I'm the Stolen African, and we're here to have a candid conversation with none other than the esteemed, the panafricanist extraordinaire, the guy who's been doing it all along. He's a writer, he's a poet, he's a sculptor, he's a musician, a singer. Maybe he'll regale us in the art of song today on the Stolen African podcast. So, once again, ladies and gentlemen, none other than Professor Maillu. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Yes.
It's a pleasure to have you today. So why don't you introduce yourself? I don't know why I did you justice. So why don't you talk to the people a little
I
bit?
think you have already done that. Unless you ask me a question, then
Right.
if I had more, then it would be, I don't want to brag.
Well,
Yeah, but one small detail I should say, at the moment, just a while ago, I don't know, it should be about 3 months ago, I did establish my countryside home as the headquarters of African spirituality. For that reason, I am the president of African spirituality in Kiswahili mkuu wa utakatifu wa Mwafrika, and the title we are using is Mwanga. Remove MW and you are left with Anka. This is the oldest symbol in Africa, the symbol of the key of life.
it's the circle with the cross at the bottom.
Yeah. That is it.
Powerful symbol.
Yes. So that's a little detail.
Yes.
Yeah, and one of the reasons is that when we talk about African religion, which has been put aside and which has been actually the foundation of very many religions, world religions, has never had a textbook equivalent to the Bible or Quran to be the base, a point of reference. And because of that, it has been subjected to so many alterations, distortions. But basically, African religion or African spirituality is very powerful. It's there. Only that people who own it are afraid of using it with all its powers.
Absolutely. So, in your opinion, Professor, why do you think that we were stripped of our Africanness, love for our religion or spirituality, and even they went as far as demonizing witchcraft as the science of into the bad realm? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the good guys from Europe, if I may may call them give them that name, they offered Africans what they thought their best, their culture, everything, because coming, you have to put it into in this context, that coming from their world and seeing black people who didn't look like them, and they didn't believe these people had anything, history, whatever. So they offered what they had and assumed that we had nothing. From that point of view, from the religion, the one thing is that they have actually to come up and say, you need to be saved, of course. It looked like we had to be saved. And one of the things that they never stopped to think, well, the Bible, the Quran, are about 2,000 years old. And African spirituality has been there for millenniums, had always been there. Africans had always been with their God, and they worshipped their God. They were in love, the God who created them, everything, So no one can come and say that Africans didn't know God. But then the Mzungus or the white people, when they came, because they didn't know that, of course they assumed that Africans didn't know anything about that, so they had to say, forget everything you did. we are coming to show you the way to heaven, and then they created their heaven, which has taken a lot of pressure. But you have to know one thing about the colonials. The white man's culture is one of conquering and dominating. So what they did to Africa is nothing new. That is their culture. They look at people, destroy them, dominate them. They did that in
Asia,
Asia, everywhere.
South America.
Yeah, this is the way we should look at it. It's not that they had a special package for Africans. They didn't. Yeah, but they were destructive because they believe in arms, using your arms. And the fact that you are strong with a gun, and any other person using arrows, and that's a primitive person who needs to be conquered and dominated. So this is what they offered. So from the religion part of it, in social sciences, everything they thought we had nothing, or history. So in their naive way, or maybe they thought they were giving us the best. Yes, you take it from that perspective. Unfortunately, it's not. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So now to follow up, Professor, why didn't it happen the other way around? Why didn't we emerge the victors? Why didn't they adopt our spirituality? Why did they have the upper hand on us, or the Asians, or the New Zealanders, the natives of New Zealand, and the Native Americans? Why did that happen?
The concept is that you are strong. You are strong because you have arms to kill. You have money. You have, we didn't have that.
Resources.
Resources. Or, the real weapons. And from that point of view, they look at you as there is nothing. You offer nothing to us. This is the beginning. Unfortunately, they were wrong, and they thought they were right. This is the thing. It's only that the problem is. I remember one time I was talking to some people, I have some friends in England, and one of them, the white man looked at me and said, "I don't like you black people." I said, "Why? Why don't you like us? Is it because we are black?" He said, No. I'll tell you, I don't like you because when you are sitting here, if I want to talk to my wife, I will call her, we go aside, and then I talk, tell her whatever I want. But when you are there and you want to talk to your friend, you change your language immediately, and you talk in something I don't understand. This is one thing. Now, the thing is, our background, our history. You have been educated using our curriculum, and you know everything about us. But we know nothing about you, not even your culture. We don't. So this is why we say, I feel very uncomfortable with you.
So is it fear of the unknown? Is it sort of like a misunderstanding?
Yeah, a fear of the unknown, and they are good guys in defending their territory.
Right.
And it's only that we have not been defending our territory. The only thing that white people didn't take away from us is the black skin.
I don't think they want that either. They don't want the melanin.
Well, maybe, I don't know, but they would have liked it to take it away. That you look like them, and of course, this is what they would like to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
On a lighter note, Professor, there's a I don't know if you've on the internet, but there's a meme circulating on the internet. It states that the only reason that the pyramids are still in Egypt is because they're too heavy for the Europeans to take them to Europe to put them in museums.
But it's coming out. It's coming out in a very interesting way. I remember some time ago I was talking to a Canadian. And that was when Mandela was alive, And I said one or two things, and he told me, hey, no, you have been, you are not what you are because you have been verified. And I tell you what, that he countered and said, now tell me, you in Africa or the black community has Mandela and Bishop Tutu, Obama, Michael Jackson, and Kofi Annan, and Wangari Maathai. Counted quite a number of them and told me, tell me in Europe and in America who is equivalent to those people. Yeah. Who, because if Wangari Maathai went to China and talked, she would be listened, and we have the voices are now coming up in Africa. And looking at it, yeah, we're making a step. Yes.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So, Professor, tell me about this sculpture you have created on the continent of Africa, the story behind it.
Yes. And I once published that a long time ago in one of my books. It is the map of Africa, and I saw that the colonials were hunters. They came to Africa, killed the African animal, slaughtered that, ate the meat, and dried the skin. So I put I drew a picture of them, that drying the skin. Now, at a later stage, when I wanted to stage to have a statue in the countryside, and I thought I like making giant ones. I thought now it's time for me to do something about that. So I did that. I bought the flags of the 7 colonial masters, and so put them on top in a pyramid. They are flying there, and below them I put the skin of the African animal that they had killed, and they were now drying the skin. Then they can process, make something out of that. This is actually what is happening at the moment. They are not gone; they are still there. Yeah, looking for ways of doing something,
Reinfiltrating the continent.
And below that, of course, I have I put the gun which they used, the Bible, and the axe, anything that they used. So it tells a picture. It's a giant one. I've seen people coming, looking at it very straight, keeping very silently, and said, this thing.
It's a powerful piece. Who are the 7 colonizers by?
Well, they were the British.
Right.
Actually, I have the British at the top.
Yes.
And then on top, next to the British on one side,
the French, probably.
The French, and the other side, the German, and then of course they are the other, the Belgium,
the Italians,
the Spanish,
and the Portuguese.
The Portuguese, right. Of course, they are there. They are flying, and I like looking at the flags when they are flying.
Right.
Yes.
So would you call them the Magnificent 7 or the Awful 7?
No, I don't. Maybe when you come there, you can give them a name. I don't know, but I like looking at it.
Excellent. So where can we view this piece of art, Professor?
When?
Where?
In the countryside. I have. From Nairobi, I live, it's about 100 kilometers.
Okay, that's not too far.
It's where I do some of the naughty things. The other one, I'm in the process of doing that, and I hope by the time you come there, it's ready. It's about Donald Trump.
Oh.
You remember that guy at one stage said African nations are shithole nations.
That was uncalled for.
And I thought it's since there is no African head of state who can say, hey, call him anything or names, I thought I should do something about that. So I decided to actually virtually make a shithole. Yes, and the shithole is huge. the statue is of Donald Trump from
the waist.
from the waist, and the up wearing his red tie, everything, and on top. And then behind it, there are actually the sheet hawk.
Oh, very descriptive.
Hawk,
I am really looking forward to seeing that.
That one, there is one for women or the ladies, and one for men. Actually, virtually, you can go there, and behind it there is a small room, which I call the White House Lodge or something like that.
That's brilliant. I really love the idea. Yes. I wish to visit this site when it's ready. When do you think it's going to be ready, Professor? I'm going to make it a point to go there and document the whole process.
If you tell me when you will come there, and if you are very serious about it, then I can go and sit down and finish within a month or something.
Okay.
But
well, it's a date, Professor. Within a month, we will be there to actually film the whole thing. And
yes.
Is it going to be functional? Can we use the shithole?
Yeah. In fact, my daughter was on a journey to South Korea and talked about it to one of her bosses.
Right.
And when she talked, when he heard about it, he said, I should be the first white man to go and use that place. And it's a way of telling the story. Sculptures and these things and music, they tell a story that we can't tell with words.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right. So, Professor, to continue, on a serious note, as a Pan-Africanist, I believe you have a mixed heritage daughter, which you married, I think, a German national. Well,
yes.
let's make it clear. When I say German national, a German woman, lady. All right, don't get it twisted. We don't play that here. There's no LGBTQ XYZ here. No shade. So, what's your stance on, as a Pan-Africanist, to marry outside of the race? Where do you stand on that currently?
I married a woman. That's the number one. And who could have been a Maasai or an Indian or anybody. So when it comes to that, I mean, you take what you have in front of you. So but the surprising part of it was my late wife gave me much more support than I expected. First of all, because she was very sympathetic to the black community for reasons that I don't understand. I still remember the first time I went after getting married. That was 1970. We had a trip. We went to Germany, and then we got into a bus. And at one stage, and the Germans and some fellows looked at me and started. I didn't understand. Started talking very bad things about me. I saw that sudden change of my wife's face.
Right.
She became red like a tomato, and she got so furious about that. So in one way or the other, we never ever argued on racial issues or anything like that. In fact, if anything, we lived a better life, because I don't remember a time when we argued over what we have to eat, whether it was African, whether it was this and that. It was a very, very good composition. Then from the writing part of it, then she supported me like her God, and the marksman part of it. So the color wasn't there, of course.
Right.
And this is the issue. It's very contradictory, and I compared her with of course I have brothers who are also married to local people, and in the family she was seen as the best daughter-in-law, and not because of the color, but the fact that she actually surrendered herself to really doing what I wanted and supporting me, and that was the biggest contributor she did. There were times people said, well, Maillu, if you had got married to one of us, I think you wouldn't be where you are. Of course, this is the way they saw, but it can be contradictory, and then I remember when we were writing the African. The so-called African Bible, it's called Ka, Holy Book of Netta, and Ka means soul, and Netta means God, so it means the soul of God. I remember my wife at one stage when we were gathered, looked at us and said, "How come that people are writing this are married to foreigners?" And then I was surprised, of course, beginning with myself. Then the other one was married to a Russian, the other one to a Swedish, the other one to an American, and then the other one to half African, half Indian. And then it didn't click into my mind. And at a later stage, I thought seriously about it and discovered these are people who are running away from what they have seen. You know, they have been exposed to what we call the best of the Western world, and discovered that no, we left something very important at home. So in one way or the other, this going out, eating with them what they eat, and makes you also begin to realize, to see yourself from a different perspective. And so the marriage part of it, I would say, contributed to the fact that to more feelings that I should actually fight for our community, the base of our community. And so these are very contradictory things. And but there is the other. I have been teased because I use the word David as my baptism name, of course. And the reason is I've been told, why don't you throw away this name? And the thing is, I was the first one, as I said, to go to church. And when I went to Salvation Army, I still remember one time after going through the Sunday school, whatever, we were told now next Sunday is the baptism name and Sunday. So go and bring your name, you know. And of course, at that time, you had to bring a name during colonial days. You had to bring a name which is used by white people. But I liked the name David, King David, because he had killed Goliath. Right. I said, no, I'd like to be called that. So I went and gave that name. And so I got it. Now at a later stage, when now intellectuals are confronting me, why don't you drop this name? I feel, no, it is not right. I am the one who chose that name, and I should keep it. And in our community, in Kamba community, you know, people are given names according to occasion. Some are called Biti, for example, is hyena, Nzoka is snake, and by being called snake or hyena or white man, it doesn't really change so much of you. So because I am the one who chose that name, I felt that if I drop it, I would actually be betraying myself. So I should as well keep it for whatever reasons, but I feel so. It is a name. I used it, and name Maillu is actually my birth name. It's not my father's name, so I've used the two of them to express myself.
Okay, so how do you prefer to be addressed, David or Professor Maillu?
Well, you know. When you have become a writer of my my kind of story, I feel embarrassed to say that I have an international name as an author, and to be called Mr., Doctor, Professor is, you know, it's just an addition.
Okay.
You could as well call me Mr. So and so. It's like, for example, if somebody came up and talked about Professor Shakespeare or Dickens, or it doesn't end up. The name is just a name. It's a hat.
Right. True.
You know, so
no, I agree 100% because the essence of you is still there.
So I'm bigger than being Dr. So and so or
Yes.
Professor so and so. The writing, what I deliver to people, I think that is very important.
Yes.
So I could be called anything, and I would say it's okay. Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right. Excellent.
Yeah.
Professor,
Yeah.
on another note, I thank you for sharing that story with us. Of course, you married a German lady, and again, I think you illustrated very well that you what was accessible to you. That's what you gravitated towards, and then she became your biggest ally, your biggest fan,
Yeah,
your biggest
yes,
supporter.
yes.
Which is, in essence, this is what it's all about.
Yes.
So now, to transition to your writing career, why don't you tell us a little bit about your writing career? When did it start, and what was your first book? And also, what are your stance? What is your stance on, let's say, Ngugi, the decolonizing the mind and all that? Did you draw a page out of Ngugi's playbook?
Well, I try to avoid that. Actually, as a writer, I'm a different person from apart from being a creative person. I'm a political scientist. I'm a philosopher. I'm talking about areas of my interest. If you are talking about, I am the only scholar, as far as I know, who has come up with a publication or studied and came up with a claim that Africans have a political ideology, which it came out of a study I carried for 18 years, and I published it in a book called African Indigenous Political Ideology. That's one of them.
When was that published?
Well, maybe 15 years ago.
Okay.
You publish a book like that, and then the first thing is many people take it, they say, what? And then, the scholars don't think about that. It takes time. I remember one person told me, your book is ahead of your time. So in terms of writing, I write a lot. I think I would not be bragging too much to say that I have the longest list of publications in the continent. I have over 80 publications, nearly 40 stories for children, books for children. I write a lot for children,
Excellent.
And also I'm in the creative part, as well as, for example, going into now into African spirituality. Is that is coming out, bringing out my my side on theology, because I'm a theologian. To be able to handle, come up with, write a book and claim this is African religion, of course, there is a lot of that you have to study on that issue to address that. So in many quarters, I'm studied, as they say, as the most original author, because I'm not following anybody. I just have to write what I think should be written and address some of these things. Now, I have quite a number of works actually talking and addressing or trying to promote pan-Africanism, because when it was established, Nkrumah did what he did, but there isn't very much else which was published after that. But I have taken up on that. When it comes now to my writings, and my contribution is very, very heavy on that. And I don't think in the continent there is anyone else who has actually handled that subject the way I have, with the dedication that Pan-Africanism has to be given support, written things, published things. The only problem is that when you write on that subject, publishers, very few publishers would like to publish things of that caliber. They are very much interested in publishing school books, little books which will give them money. So I have, those are my works which I have to myself, hoping that at one stage I can publish. I'm going to publish them, but in terms of contribution, I'm a totally different person from Ngugi wa Thiong'o or Achebe or anyone else. I'm wider, and I go deeper into African religion and African values, and this is why I said I'm referred to usually as a professor of African values, and that is what I would like to promote much more than anything else.
That is excellent, Professor. So now, in terms of your writings, your books, you say you've written 80 plus books.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Are they all in English, or are some of them written in indigenous African
Most
languages?
of them are in English, and apart from the fiction part of it, I have non-fiction. For example, I have a book which is called Our Kind of Polygamy. And this is non-fiction. I looked at that subject because it was a matter. Many people have been talking about it. Is this good or something? And when the Western people came and white people wanted to say this is rubbish, you are full of you. Africans want only to be married to women. And then the irony is that white people are not just as polygamous as we are. What they have is consecutive polygamy. In that I have
polygamy.
Yeah. I have my wife. If I want to have another one, I create a story, throw that one out to bring another one, and you can do that. In the end, you end up in having 3 or 4 or something like that.
Right.
In the African thinking is that Africans don't dispose of their bad wives; they keep them. That is the thing. So
yes.
so I wanted to look at that. What is behind polygamy? Because I am a child from polygamous home. In fact, my mother was the 5th wife of my father. And there is a lot of looking into that. So I thought it's good to try to interpret this. So this is my interest. My interest is trying to interpret, look at the African one and look at the modern way of looking at that. So that is one of them. And then the other one, of course, I have told you, African indigenous political ideology. And then I have others. And I write in 3 languages, in English, in Kiswahili, and my mother tongue. I write a lot of poetry also in the 3
Right.
languages.
Excellent. So in terms of your books, do you foresee translating the books to more indigenous African languages, or is that something that you're not looking forward to?
Well, that is a very difficult thing. Yes, you have got to look into the economics of this. If you write a book in English, the consumption is wider, or in Kiswahili, smaller tribal languages or national languages have a smaller, population,
right.
and they can't support, the publishing, what you have invested in
translating the book and publishing it.
That is, but the bad part of it is this is why maybe if I was born in Europe and other places, possibly I would have all my books published. But I dare say, and allow me to say, that I have much more unpublished works than what I have published. I have nearly 130 unpublished works because the local publishers are not interested in that. When you go outside the and their board, they say, hey, no, we are not interested in this and that. And some of them, when you touch very controversial areas, they keep away. Yeah, that is the issue. And unfortunately, in Africa, we do not have some of these people who think, well, maybe I should invest in publishing those books.
Right.
And that one is not there. In fact, writing and publishing is still a new thing to Africans, and many people do not know them. But in the Western world, where you are holding such a mammoth fortune in this, then they can move in and support you, publish that. But the publishers we have locally are interested in publishing for schools and consumption.
Right. So they mainly focus on the business aspect of things.
Yeah.
So this is probably, I think, meme worthy. Professor Maillu just said, in Africa, where's the camera? Let me look at the camera. Listen, in Africa, we don't discard of our wives. We collect our wives, all right? Our old wives, we keep them. We're wife collectors, all right?
Yeah.
So you can use that, guys. We collect wives. Yes. We don't discard of the old ones.
Yeah.
Thank you for the gem. So now, see, I totally understand, Professor. So economically, it's not viable. And of course now that you mentioned you have more than 130 books just waiting to be published. And I think now in the new paradigm, publishing is not what it used to be 20, 30 years ago. There are new ways, new avenues. You have physical books, which cost a lot of money to produce. But now you have e-books, which is electronic books. Or you have even physical books, but print on demand. That means the investment to actually print 10,000 books, it doesn't have to be there anymore. So you wait if somebody orders, then you print the copy that they want, and you ship it to them. And that could be done seamlessly.
You are talking about Amazon, which we do not have here.
Right, but Amazon, Professor, how about our Amazon version of it? I'm not really talking about Amazon. Yes, something similar to Amazon, because I think we can do it, and I have a couple of partners in the house, Peter and Pedro, which is what we're actually looking to do, is to get a prolific writers such as yourself, and help facilitate the process to get these books out there, because you're sitting on a treasure trove. And you need to tell your story. You need to be out there. These stories need to be shared. And again, you mentioned children's stories. Again, I'm really interested in that. Because children's stories. It's very important to publish those, to have representation, to show the children that they are represented. Stories that they can relate to. For instance, when my daughter was growing up, the only two books, actually not the only two books, but her two favorite books were Dr. Seuss. Cat in a Hat and Puss, Cats in a Hat, and then Puss in Boots. These were the stories that I read to her from, those two books from the age of 2 till the age of 4. Almost every night she needed to hear these stories. So now imagine if we have indigenous original African stories to read to our children, whether we're on the continent of Africa or in the diaspora. It's going to do a tremendous service to them growing up, reading stories, listening to stories about them, the illustrations, the look like them, the hair, the skin tone, the nose, the lips. You see, it's very important.
That is my dream. That's my dream, and I'm open for any new ways of publishing that. I don't want, of course, writing. I write because I want to say something, and I like that message to go to the people immediately.
Yes.
And so I'm very open to exploring any new ways of publishing. And I have actually to add to it that when I started writing at that time, because Kenya was dominated by British publishers, writing, you sent it to them, they said, no. Actually, I'm the one who introduced myself into writing by publishing. I published my books, and as soon as I made the name, then the same publishers, British publishers who were telling me, go off, they started saying, can you write something for, So that I homemade things, that is the beginning. And we have what it takes actually to create a very powerful reading culture. And but of course it needs means, and that's where we are.
Yeah, so you were a pioneer of sorts.
Yes.
That's amazing. I think now you could again breach the next frontier by your books. They need to be out there in physical format, e-books, audiobooks even. This is another avenue, and I think you would be a great orator as well to read some of these stories, whether they're short stories or children's stories, and put them out there. And
there are so many aspects. I know I've been confronted by many people who read my books and said, how come that nobody has thought about filming these books? Because it's a lot. In the Western world, the filming industry is supported by fiction, but here nobody is actually thinking about that. We are wealthy, but we don't know what to do with it and how to. That's where we are, and I'm just doing my little part. The other person should do his little part, but we proudly have what it takes to make Africa very, very powerful.
Absolutely. So, Professor, so from this day forward, we're going to make it a point. We need to sit down and talk.
Yes.
After we should turn off the camera, all right? We need to actually get you out there, all these things you talk about right now, to record these stories, to make sure we tell your story. It's legacy.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So long after you're gone, long after I'm gone, long after my partners are gone, we can be proud of something, leave a legacy for the next generation to continue, to take the baton, so to speak, and say, you know what, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants.
Yes.
Professor Maillu. Right?
There is a point I wanted to make. When you talked about we keep the keeping bad wives a part of it, and there is a little something one has to add. If I'm married to somebody and I don't like my wife because of one or two things, I shouldn't forget that she is actually the mother of my children. So keeping her in one way or the other is helping the children. So we do not want children to feel that our mother is divorced, so we keep them for social reasons, and actually religious reasons. One has to see it that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, that's well said, Professor. So again, we don't break up the family unit. The family unit is so important. Whether it's multiple wives, whether it's 2, 3, 4 wives, however you can handle. And in fact, I endorse that philosophy wholeheartedly. So because join us in Africa, fellas. This is how we do it out here. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Stolen African podcast with the esteemed Professor Maillu. So again, we'll put the links of some of his publications who have been published. We'll put them in the description. So please support the professor, buy the books, and are you on social media, Professor, or where can people reach you?
You have reached me.
All right, so people, if you wish to get in touch with the professor, just inbox us or leave us a comment, and then we'll facilitate that. So if you want to interview him, if you want to support the professor, if you want to buy some of his art pieces, they'll be available for you to purchase. So once again, this is I'm the Stolen African, the Stolen African podcast. So thank you for joining us for another insightful episode, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.